The third dramatic booster I'm presenting is shock. You can see it as the opposite of transcendence. Earlier, I described transcendence as a musical experience that lifts you up to greatness. Shock, on the other hand, is a musical experience that unearths the dark side of humanity. The operatic masterpieces, which contain a shock factor, are full of ugly characters. They are ugly because there's something strongly disturbing or even disgusting about them. They may be sick in the mind or sick at heart. Opera is an art form which focuses a lot on the emotions of its characters. Through those grotesque characters I mentioned, the composers can now tackle negative emotions, especially unhealthy ones, and controversial topics which need discussion. This expands the range of content they can explore in their musical dramas. More importantly, the operatic masterpieces containing the shock factor are highly effective, probably too effective to some. The repulsive behavior of the grotesque characters in these operas and their mentally unbalanced thinking, which their interpreters bring to life during their performances, is like a spicy delicacy. Those operas' musical numbers are like the servings. Although the process of listening to them can be as agonizing as the fire in your mouth every serving leaves in its wake, their stimulating music will keep you at it until you're done with them. Just like how every spicy delicacy has its level of spiciness, the operas with the shock factor have their ranking. Not all opera lovers can stomach the operas with the greatest shock factor. They're either too agonizing or stimulating for them. To let you have an idea of what that fire in the mouth sensation each musical serving from those operas feels like, I'll start you on some excerpts from the opera with the lowest shock factor, Richard Strauss' Salome. Salome is the stepdaughter of King Herodes, Herod in English. Sick of life at King Herodes' court, she stumbles upon the underground reservoir where the prophet Yochanan, John the Baptist in English, has been imprisoned. Yochanan's speeches fascinate Salome. On her instructions, Yochanan is brought out of the reservoir. Salome expresses her interest in Yochanan by wanting to touch his body, which he rebuffs. Salome then rejects Yochanan's body and then tries to touch his hair, which he also rebuffs. Salome then rejects Yochanan's hair and decides to kiss him in the mouth. This excerpt is a part of the monologue Salome sings when she decides to kiss Yochanan. Salome is played by soprano Marlene Bistrom here. When Bistrom sings here, it sounds as if her character's madly in love with Yochanan. Let's hear it now. Didn't the music we just listened to sound extremely passionate? You may ask, what's shocking about it? What's shocking about Salome intending to kiss Yochanan? If Salome's attracted to Yochanan, it's perfectly normal, but she's already rejected his body. That rejection includes Yochanan's face, so why does she intend to kiss him? Salome only likes Yochanan's mouth because it's a hole where all his fascinating speeches come from. With this in mind, think about the music. Doesn't it sound disturbing to you when such strong love music is directed at a hole in someone else's body? Isn't Salome sick? Yet she can be sick in such a beautiful way. Doesn't this arouse your curiosity where Richard Strauss will take the opera? Let's listen to another excerpt which begins at the end of the monologue. Salome tries to kiss Yochanan. Yochanan rejects Salome. The captain who worships Salome and thus enabled her to visit Yochanan is tortured by her attraction to Yochanan. The captain's anguish increases. Wanting to preserve his image of Salome as a goddess, the captain has been begging her to leave, but she ignores him. In a desperate attempt to convince her, the captain commits suicide, which Salome hardly notices. Salome continues to try kissing Yochanan. Yochanan mistakes Salome's desire for her desire to receive guidance. We'll now try it. Yochanan gives Salome the guidance he thinks she's seeking. He instructs her to seek Jesus. Hear how the singer playing Yochanan, bass baritone Evgeny Nikitin, uses his commanding voice to portray his character's prophetic charisma. The excerpt we just listened to was the closing section of Yochanan's guidance. Even after receiving such guidance, Salome still tries to kiss Yochanan. Yochanan sees that Salome is incorrigible, rejects her one final time, and returns to the reservoir, cursing her. The excerpt we heard was the last section of the duet between Salome and Yochanan. All four excerpts belong to that duet. Remember what I said about operas with a shock factor like Salome having a fire-in-the-mouth sensation in each musical serving? The fire from the first excerpt was Salome's disturbing attraction to Yochanan's mouth. The fire from the second excerpt was the captain's suicide. Isn't it shocking that the captain could suddenly kill himself in plain view before Yochanan and Salome, and the other two characters treat it as though it was nothing? How can anyone not react when someone kills themselves in front of them? The next fire is from the last excerpt. Salome's disturbing attraction has graduated to all-consuming hunger. Did you notice how Bistrom's singing reflected this? Her singing became more obsessive until the point it sounded mindless. Nevertheless, strangely enough, despite her character's worsening behavior, isn't it interesting how her music was always pleasant? The ugly characters in the operas with the shock factor aren't limited to their women. They also include men. Let's meet one of them. After Salome's duet with Yochanan, Herodes, her stepfather, enters. Herodes is mentally unbalanced and morally corrupt. Salome is sick with life at court because she can sense Herodes lusting after her teenage body. This excerpt we'll be hearing introduces Herodes as a pervert. At the beginning of the excerpt, Herodias, Salome's mother, repeats her warning to Herodes not to target Salome. Herodes tries to harass Salome twice. During Herodes' first attempt, he offers Salome some wine received from the Roman emperor. Herodes asks Salome to drink from his cup so he can fantasize Salome indulging him sexually. Salome rejects Herodes. Herodes complains to Herodias, who approves. Herodes makes a second attempt, offering Salome some food. Herodes asks Salome to bite the food he will finish so she can give him another sexual fantasy. We'll now listen to the excerpt where Herodias is played by mezzo-soprano Doris Soffel and Herodes is played by tenor Lance Ryan. When you hear Ryan sing, notice how he gives his nasal singing voice an exaggerated finesse and a goodwill you instinctively distrust. Doesn't his singing and acting make you think Herodes is a creep?
Deine kleinen Lippen hinein, deine kleinen roten Lippen, deine will ich die Wäsche nehmen.
Ich bin nicht durstig, Tetrarch.
Hörst du, wie sie mir antwortet? Ihr seid deine Tochter.
Sie hat recht, warum starrst du sie
Ich nur ein wenig ab, nur ein wenig, und diese Frucht will ich essen, was übrig ist.
Ich bin nicht hungrig, Tetrarch.
Herodes is a character part, a role in opera which prioritizes acting over singing. Hence, his music doesn't have to sound pleasant, but naturally there are limits, because we are talking about music here. So far, we've seen and heard 5 excerpts from the opera Salome. 4 of them are shocking, and each one of them is more shocking than the last. Finally, we find ourselves before a pervert who tests our tolerance. Ironically, this is just past the halfway point of this opera, and is supposedly the least shocking opera among the operas with a shock factor. At this point, you might wonder why any person will continue with this. Later in the opera, Herodes will ask Salome to dance for him. Surprisingly, Salome will agree. Herodes is a pervert, so what type of dance do you think he wants from her? Preferably an erotic dance. Now, let's watch an excerpt of Salome's dance, known as the Dance of the Seven Views. By the way, this dance has such sensual music, its music can be performed standalone. There are times when the dance is actually performed by a ballerina on behalf of the singer, but in this performance, apparently Bistrom did it herself. Previously, Salome has been resisting her stepfather Herodes' advances. However, now, she went a step even further and actively satisfied his sexual desire. Why would she do something like that? Salome has something in mind which is several times more shocking than the last excerpt which introduced us to a perverted stepfather. You might be able to wiki the answer, but knowing the answer is light years away from seeing and hearing it for yourself. Opera is about the experience after all, as I said earlier. If you stay with us, I promise that one day you will have the opportunity to experience for yourself what Salome will be doing. If you had fun watching this video, please help me like it. If you like to continue chasing this series, please subscribe to my channel. If you wish to express your views about it or discuss it further, please feel free to leave a comment. Thank you and stay tuned.